The rain fell softly that Tuesday morning, like the sky itself was crying. 11-year-old Alex stood beside the freshly dug grave, his small shoulders hunched forward under his black coat that was one size too big. It had been his dad's idea, to buy a coat he could grow into, back when things like growing and future and tomorrow still mattered. Now, as they lowered his mom's wooden casket into the ground, those words felt empty. His dad Thomas stood beside him, one large hand resting on Alex's shoulder. The weight of it should have been comforting, but Alex barely felt it. He barely felt anything except the hollow ache in his chest where his heart used to be. 3 weeks. That's all it took for his world to shatter. 3 weeks from the day his mom had collapsed while making pancakes, his favorite breakfast, to this moment, standing in the rain watching her disappear forever. The body is just a vessel, the priest had said earlier during the service. Your mother's spirit lives on. Alex didn't believe him. If her spirit lived on, why couldn't he feel her? Why couldn't she answer when he called for her in the middle of the night? People moved around them in a blur of black clothes and mumbled, "Condolences." His Aunt Lily was there, his mom's sister, her eyes red and puffy. Uncle Pete stood awkwardly beside her, never good with emotions but trying his best. His grandparents had flown in from across the country, looking older than they had at Christmas just 4 months ago when Mom had still been laughing and taking pictures of everyone opening gifts. "Time to go, son," his dad whispered, his voice rough like sandpaper, but Alex couldn't move. His sneakers felt glued to the wet grass. "I can't," he said, the first words he'd spoken all day. The small crowd of mourners had started drifting toward their cars, black umbrellas bobbing like strange birds across the cemetery. Someone, his grandmother maybe, called for them to come out of the rain. "Just a few more minutes," his dad told them, understanding something in Alex that Alex himself couldn't put into words. The cemetery workers stood at a respectful distance, waiting to finish their job once the family left. Alex stared at them with a strange detachment. How many mothers had they buried? How many lives had they covered with dirt? "She can't breathe in there," Alex said suddenly, his voice small against the patter of raindrops. His dad knelt beside him, mud soaking through the knees of his dress pants. "She's not suffering, Alex. She's at peace now." Peace. What a strange word for gone forever. When everyone had left except for them, Alex finally moved. But instead of walking toward the car, he stumbled forward to the edge of the grave and fell to his knees. The dirt was cool and damp under his hands. "Mom," he whispered, then louder. "Mom." His dad tried to pull him back, but Alex shrugged him off with surprising strength. "Please don't leave me here," Alex said, his words meant only for his mother. "Take me with you. Please take me with you." His voice broke on the last word, and suddenly he was sobbing. Deep, gulping cries that seemed to come from the very center of his being. He hadn't cried when she first got sick. He hadn't cried when the doctor told them there was nothing more they could do. He hadn't even cried when he'd walked into her hospital room that final morning and found his dad holding her still hand, his shoulders shaking with silent grief. But now, kneeling in the mud beside her grave, something broke inside him. He cried, for all the soccer games she would never see, for the high school graduation that was years away, for the way she sang off-key while cooking dinner, for the smell of her lavender shampoo when she hugged him goodnight. "I don't know how to do this," he sobbed, not caring that rain and tears and probably snot were streaming down his face. "I don't know how to be here without you." His dad knelt beside him then, and this time when he put his arm around Alex's shoulders, Alex didn't pull away. They stayed like that, the rain soaking them both until Alex had no tears left. "She loved you more than anything in this world," his dad said finally, his voice barely audible over the rain. "More than the sun and moon and stars," she always said. It was what she'd told Alex every night before bed since he was little. "I love you more than the sun and moon and stars put together." Then why did she leave? Alex asked. The question that had been burning inside him since the doctor had first used the word terminal. His dad didn't have an answer, just pulled him closer. After a while, Alex couldn't have said how long. His dad gently helped him to his feet. "We have to go now, buddy. We'll come back tomorrow, I promise." Alex let himself be led away, his legs numb, and his heart even number. The drive home was silent except for the swish of windshield wipers and the occasional sniff from either of them. Their house looked exactly the same as when they'd left it that morning, which seemed impossible. How could anything be the same when everything had changed? Inside, the air smelled like the casseroles and baked goods neighbors had been dropping off for days. The dining room table was covered with them, each dish wrapped carefully with foil and labeled with names and reheating instructions. Alex walked past them all and straight up to his room, leaving wet footprints on the carpet. His bedroom was a time capsule from before, action figures on the shelves, a solar system mobile hanging from the ceiling, a science project his mom had helped him with last year, clothes spilling out of his half-open dresser drawers. On his desk sat the Mother's Day card he'd made but never given her. She'd been too sick by then, the medication making her sleep most of the day. Alex picked it up with trembling hands. He'd drawn a picture of them together at the beach, her favorite place. Inside he'd written, "To the best mom in the universe, thanks for always taking care of me. Love, Alex." Such simple words for something so big. He set the card down carefully and walked to his window. Their backyard stretched out below, the old oak tree swaying in the rain. His mom had hung a tire swing from it when he was 7, pushing him for hours while he screamed with delight. Last summer they'd built a birdhouse together and mounted it on the trunk. She'd known all the names of the birds that came to visit, chickadees, and nuthatches and the occasional bright cardinal. A soft knock on his door broke through his thoughts. "Alex, you should change out of those wet clothes." His dad stood in the doorway, already changed into dry jeans and a faded sweatshirt. His eyes were red, but his voice was steady. "I'm not hungry," Alex said, answering the question he knew would come next. "You need to eat something. Later, maybe." His dad nodded, not pushing it. "Grandma and Grandpa will be here soon. They're staying for a few weeks to help out." Help out. As if this was just a temporary problem that needed solving, like a leaky faucet or a flat tire. "Can I just be alone for a while?" Alex asked. After his dad left, closing the door softly behind him, Alex changed into dry clothes and lay on his bed, staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars stuck to his ceiling. Another project with his mom, mapping out constellations, one rainy Saturday afternoon. The ancient people believed stars were the souls of heroes, she'd told him as they worked, looking down on us, guiding us home. "Are you a hero?" he'd asked. She'd laughed and ruffled his hair. "No, just your mom. But that's pretty heroic sometimes, especially when you won't eat your vegetables." Alex reached for his phone on the nightstand and pulled up his photo gallery. There she was, laughing at his 10th birthday party, making a silly face at the beach last summer, sleeping on the couch with their cat curled up beside her. In every picture, she looked so alive it made his chest hurt. He scrolled until he found his favorite. The two of them at the Science Museum, standing in front of the dinosaur exhibit. Her arm was around his shoulders, and they were both beaming at the camera. It had been taken just 6 months ago, before anyone knew she was sick, before the word cancer entered their vocabulary and destroyed everything. Alex hugged the phone to his chest and curled onto his side. Outside, the rain continued to fall, a gentle rhythm on his window. Somewhere downstairs he could hear his dad moving around the kitchen, probably making coffee for when the relatives arrived. Life was somehow still going on, minute by minute, even though it felt like it should have stopped. How was he supposed to do this? How was he supposed to wake up tomorrow and the next day and the next, knowing she wouldn't be there? "Take me with you," he whispered again into his pillow, but only silence answered him. 2 weeks after the funeral, Alex's grandparents were still staying in the guest room downstairs. His grandmother Rose cooked meals that no one really ate, and his grandfather Joe spent hours fixing things around the house that weren't broken. The constant sound of hammering and drilling filled the empty spaces where his mom's laughter used to be. Alex had gone back to school after missing a week, but nothing felt real there. His teachers spoke to him in soft, careful voices. His friends didn't know what to say, so most of them said nothing at all. Only his best friend Miguel still treated him normally, talking about video games and complaining about homework as if Alex's whole world hadn't just fallen apart. "Want to come over after school?" Miguel asked one Friday as they walked out of math class. "My mom got that new racing game we wanted to try." Alex shrugged. "I don't know. My dad wants me to come straight home these days." The truth was, he didn't want to go anywhere. He didn't want to see Miguel's mom making snacks in the kitchen or hear her calling them for dinner. It hurt too much to see what he no longer had. "Maybe another time," Alex said, not meaning it. At home, Alex dropped his backpack by the door and headed straight for the stairs. His grandmother called from the kitchen. "Alex, is that you? I made cookies." "Not hungry," he called back, taking the stairs two at a time. His room had become his sanctuary, the one place where he could shut the door and pretend just for a little while that when he came out again, his mom would be there. He'd started sleeping with her old sweater, the soft blue one she used to wear on weekend mornings. It still smelled faintly of her perfume, though the scent was fading a little more each day. His dad had gone back to work that week, coming home late with dark circles under his eyes. They'd had pizza for dinner 3 nights in a row because, as his dad had explained to Grandma Rose, "I just can't deal with cooking real food right now." Alex flopped onto his bed and stared at the ceiling. The house felt wrong. Everything felt wrong. His mom's shoes were still by the front door. Her coffee mug, the one with the chip on the handle, still sat on her desk in the small home office. Her gardening gloves were still hanging on the hook by the back door. It was like she had just stepped out for a minute and would be back any second, but she wouldn't be back, ever. Alex rolled onto his side and pulled open the drawer of his nightstand. Inside was his mom's phone. His dad had given it to him the day after the funeral, unlocked. "She took so many pictures," his dad had said. "I thought you might want to have them." Alex scrolled through the photos now, like he did every day after school. There were hundreds of them. Family vacations, holiday gatherings, random moments his mom had thought worth saving. Alex paused on one from last Halloween. He'd dressed as an astronaut, and his mom had painted his face white with black circles around his eyes to look like he was wearing a helmet visor. They were both laughing in the photo, his mom's arm around his shoulders. A knock on his door startled him. "Alex?" It was his dad. "Yeah?" The door opened and his dad stepped in, still wearing his work clothes. A button-up shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows and dark pants. He looked tired. He always looked tired now. "How was school?" his dad asked, sitting on the edge of Alex's bed. "Fine. Did you eat the lunch Grandma packed you?" Alex shrugged. "Most of it." His dad nodded, then seemed to notice the phone in Alex's hand. "Finding good pictures?" "Yeah." Alex hesitated, then asked the question that had been bothering him for days. "Dad, what's going to happen to Mom's stuff?" His dad's face did that thing it often did lately, a quick flash of pain before settling back into careful blankness. "What do you mean?" "Her clothes and her books and everything. Are we going to keep it all? Forever?" His dad ran a hand through his hair, which needed a cut. "I don't know, buddy. I haven't really thought about it yet." But Alex had been thinking about it a lot. "I don't want her things to go away," he said quietly. "But it's hard seeing them everywhere." His dad nodded slowly. "I know what you mean. It's like she's still here, but she's not." For the first time in weeks, Alex felt like someone understood exactly what he was feeling. "Yeah. Tell you what," his dad said. "We don't have to decide anything right now. But maybe this weekend we could look through some of her things together, just to start thinking about what we want to keep close and what might be okay to put away for a while." Alex thought about it. "Okay." His dad reached out and squeezed his shoulder. "Dinner in 30 minutes. Grandma made lasagna." After his dad left, Alex got up and walked to his window. The view of the backyard had changed since spring had arrived. The grass was greener, and the big oak tree was covered in fresh leaves. His mom had loved springtime. "Everything gets a second chance," she used to say as she planted flowers along the border of the yard. Alex spotted his mom's garden shed at the far end of the yard. It was a small wooden structure painted light blue, her favorite color. She'd spent hours in there potting plants and organizing seeds. Alex hadn't been inside since before she got sick. Suddenly, he wanted to see it. Without stopping to think, he headed downstairs, slipping past the kitchen where his grandparents were cooking and out the back door. The yard felt bigger without his mom in it. Alex crossed the grass slowly, his sneakers getting damp from the recent rain. When he reached the shed, he hesitated. The door was closed, but probably not locked. His mom never locked it. Alex turned the handle, and the door swung open with a soft creak. Inside, it was just as she'd left it. Gardening tools hung neatly on hooks along one wall. Bags of soil and plant food were stacked in a corner. Her work table stood against the back wall, scattered with empty pots and packets of seeds. The smell hit him immediately. Soil and flowers and that special plant food his mom always used. It smelled like her in a different way than her sweater did, but just as powerfully. Alex stepped inside and closed the door behind him. Sunlight filtered through the small window, casting golden squares on the wooden floor. His mom's gardening journal lay open on the table, her handwriting filling the pages with notes about planting times and care instructions. He picked it up carefully, running his fingers over the words she'd written. Flipping through the pages, he noticed something tucked between them, a small key with a blue ribbon tied to it. Alex didn't recognize it. It wasn't the house key or the car key or any key he'd seen before. He slipped it into his pocket without thinking too much about it. Maybe his dad would know what it was for. As he was about to leave, something caught his eye. A small blue ceramic pot sitting alone on a shelf near the window. Unlike the other pots in the shed, which were empty or filled with dormant plants, this one had a tiny green sprout poking through the soil. A small wooden marker stuck out of the dirt with words written in his mom's handwriting. "For Alex, when the time comes." Alex stared at it, his heart beating faster. What did that mean? When what time comes? Had she known she was going to die? Had she left this for him on purpose? He carefully picked up the pot, which was heavier than it looked. The soil was slightly damp, as if someone had watered it recently. But who? Not him, and probably not his dad, who barely remembered to water himself these days, let alone a plant. The sound of his grandmother calling his name from the back porch startled him. "Alex, dinner time." Quickly, Alex placed the pot back on the shelf, promising himself he would come back tomorrow to investigate further. He took one last look around the shed, breathing in his mom's presence, before stepping back outside and closing the door behind him. That night, Alex couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the mysterious plant and the key he'd found. After tossing and turning for hours, he finally got up and took the key from his jeans pocket. In the moonlight streaming through his window, he examined it more closely. It was small and old-fashioned looking, with an intricate pattern on the head. Alex tied the ribbon around his wrist so he wouldn't lose the key. Whatever it opened, it had been important enough for his mom to keep it in her journal. Tomorrow, he decided, he would go back to the shed and take a closer look at everything. Maybe there were other messages she'd left for him. Maybe there were answers to all the questions he hadn't known to ask while she was still alive. For the first time since his mom died, Alex felt something other than sadness. It wasn't exactly happiness, not yet, but it was something close to curiosity. A tiny spark in the darkness that had surrounded him for weeks. As he finally drifted off to sleep, he dreamed of his mom in her garden, smiling and pointing to something he couldn't quite see just beyond his reach. The next morning, Alex woke up early. Sunlight streamed through his window, painting golden patterns on his bedroom floor. For a split second, he forgot about everything. His mom being gone, the funeral, the emptiness that had taken up residence in his chest. Then reality crashed back, but today, alongside the sadness, was something else. Curiosity about the plant and the key he'd found. He dressed quickly and tiptoed downstairs, hoping to avoid his grandparents. Saturday mornings used to mean pancakes with his mom, both of them still in pajamas, laughing as they mixed blueberries into the batter. Now they meant his grandmother trying too hard to make things normal and his grandfather reading the newspaper. With a frown that never went away, Alex was lucky. The kitchen was empty. He grabbed an apple from the fruit bowl and slipped out the back door, the morning dew soaking his sneakers as he crossed the yard toward the blue shed. Inside, everything looked just as it had yesterday. The small plant in the blue pot sat on the shelf, its tiny green leaves reaching toward the sunlight. Alex picked it up carefully and placed it on his mom's work table. For Alex, when the time comes, the marker still read in his mom's handwriting. When is the time supposed to come? He whispered to the empty shed. And what are you anyway? The plant, of course, didn't answer. It was just a small sprout with 2 perfect leaves and the promise of more. Alex had never been much into gardening. That had been his mom's thing. But something about this plant felt important. She had left it for him specifically. He spotted a watering can near the sink in the corner and filled it halfway. Carefully, he gave the plant just enough water to dampen the soil, the way he'd seen his mom do 100 times before. There you go, he said, feeling slightly silly for talking to a plant. Drink up. While the plant soaked up the water, Alex turned his attention to his mom's gardening journal. He flipped through it more carefully than he had yesterday, reading her notes about when to plant certain vegetables and which flowers needed full sun or shade. Her handwriting filled him with a complicated mix of comfort and pain. Near the back of the journal, he found a section labeled Special Projects. His mom had written about plants she was trying to grow that weren't common in their area, experiments she was conducting with different growing conditions. And there, on the second-to-last page, was a drawing of what looked like the plant in the blue pot. Midnight Lily, she had written. Extremely rare. Seeds from Dr. Chen's collection, known to bloom only under specific conditions, must be watched carefully. Below that was a care schedule with precise instructions for watering, light exposure, and even something called lunar feeding cycle. Alex frowned, trying to understand. This wasn't just any plant. It was something special, something rare. His mom had been a high school science teacher, but plants had been her real passion. She'd often told him about her dream of discovering a new species someday. Had this been part of that dream? The key he'd found was still tied around his wrist with its blue ribbon. On a hunch, Alex looked around the shed for anything with a lock. There was a small cabinet on the wall that he'd never paid much attention to before. It was painted the same blue as the shed and had a tiny keyhole. His heart beating faster, Alex tried the key. It slid in perfectly and turned with a soft click. Inside the cabinet was a single shelf holding a wooden box. Alex took it out carefully and set it on the work table. The box was simple but beautiful, with a tree carved into the lid. Inside, he found a collection of items that made his throat tight with emotion. A small stack of envelopes tied with string, each with a date written on it, a USB drive labeled for Alex' 16th birthday, a small velvet pouch, and a framed photo of his mom holding him as a baby, both of them laughing. Alex picked up the envelope on top of the stack. It had yesterday's date written on it. With trembling hands, he opened it and pulled out a letter written in his mom's handwriting. "My dearest Alex," it began. And he had to stop for a moment, his eyes suddenly blurry with tears. Taking a deep breath, he continued reading. "If you're reading this, then you've found the midnight lily and the key. I hoped you would. I've been planning this for a while now, ever since the doctors told me the news. I didn't want to scare you then, but I think deep down, I knew I might not have much time left. I couldn't bear the thought of leaving you without finding a way to still be part of your life. So I created this, a series of letters for you to read, one each month. Think of them as our continued conversations because even though I can't be there in person, my love for you never ends. The plant you found is very special. It's called a midnight lily, and it's one of the rarest flowers in the world. Dr. Chen, my old professor from college, gave me the seeds last year. He told me they only bloom at night during a full moon, and only if they're cared for with love. Take care." of it for me, will you? Water it every 3 days, but not too much. Keep it in partial sunlight, morning sun is best. And talk to it sometimes. Plants respond to voices, especially voices of people they love. I've been telling this one all about you while it was just a seed. I know right now everything hurts. Losing someone you love is the hardest thing in the world. I should know, I lost my own mom when I was not much older than you. But here's what I learned, Alex. Grief is just love with nowhere to go. So we have to make new places for that love to live. This plant is one of those places. These letters are another. And your heart. Your wonderful, kind, brave heart. That's the most important place of all. I'm so sorry I had to leave you. If I could have stayed, I would have. I would have moved mountains to stay with you and Dad. But some things, even a mother's, love can't fix. I love you more than the sun and moon and stars put together. Always have, always will. Mom, pass. There's one letter for each month. Promise me you'll only read one at a time. Some things are meant to unfold slowly, like the petals of a flower. By the time Alex finished reading, tears were streaming down his face. But they weren't the same kind of tears he'd cried at the funeral. These felt different somehow. Still sad, but also warm, like being wrapped in his mom's blue sweater. He carefully folded the letter and put it back in its envelope. His mom had known she was going to die, and instead of just disappearing from his life, she had created this path of letters for him to follow. She had found a way to still be his mom, even now. Alex looked at the plant with new eyes. It wasn't just a plant. It was a connection to her, something they would care for together even though she wasn't physically here. I promise, he whispered, both to the letter and to her. I'll take care of it. He spent the next hour organizing a small corner of the shed. He moved the blue pot to a spot where it would get morning sunlight, set up his mom's old timer to remind him when to water it, and cleared space on the work table for the wooden box of letters. As he worked, he talked out loud, telling the plant about school and Miguel and how his dad had started burning toast every morning because he couldn't seem to remember to check it. Mom says you can hear me, Alex told the tiny green sprout. I don't know if that's true, but I'm going to talk to you anyway, just in case. When he finally headed back to the house for lunch, Alex felt lighter than he had in weeks. The pain of losing his mom was still there. He knew it probably always would be. But alongside it now was this precious secret, this connection that death couldn't break. His dad was in the kitchen when he got back, attempting to make sandwiches while his grandmother hovered nearby, clearly itching to take over. Where have you been all morning? His dad asked, looking up from his clumsy attempt. At slicing tomatoes, Alex hesitated. The letters and the plant felt private somehow, a special secret between him and his mom. Just in the backyard, he said finally. Thinking. His dad nodded, seeming to understand that thinking covered a lot of territory these days. Want a sandwich? I can't promise it'll be as good as your mom's, but I'm trying. Sure, Alex said, sitting at the kitchen counter. Thanks, Dad. As his dad assembled what had to be the messiest turkey sandwich in history, Alex touched the key still, tied around his wrist, and thought about the plant waiting for him in the shed. For the first time since his mom died, tomorrow felt like something to look forward to, rather than something to dread. Over the next few weeks, Alex fell into a new routine. Every morning before school, he would visit the shed to check on the midnight lily. Every afternoon, he would spend at least an hour there talking to the plant, reading his school books aloud, or just sitting quietly beside it. The small sprout had grown steadily, developing more leaves and gaining height. His dad had noticed the change in him, how he no longer spent all his time in his room, how he sometimes smiled at dinner, how he'd started answering questions with more than one word. One evening, as they washed dishes together, his dad finally asked, "What's going on in that shed that's got you so interested?" Alex hesitated. He wasn't ready to share the letters yet, but he could tell his dad about the plant. Mom was growing something special in there, he said, carefully drying a plate. A really rare flower called a midnight lily. I've been taking care of it. His dad's hands stilled in the soapy water. Your mom mentioned that plant once, something about a professor she knew giving her rare seeds. Alex nodded, surprised. Dr. Chen, did you meet him? Once, at a university event your mom dragged me to. His dad smiled at the memory. He was this tiny old man who talked about plants like they were his children. Your mom admired him a lot. It felt good talking about his mom like this, remembering her as she was, not just focusing on her being gone. The plant's supposed to bloom during a full moon, Alex said, but only if it's cared for properly. His dad reached for another dish. When's the next full moon? This Saturday, Alex answered immediately. He'd been checking his calendar app daily, counting down. Maybe we could watch it together, his dad suggested, trying to sound casual but not quite managing it. Camp out in the yard like we used to do sometimes. Alex felt a rush of warmth. His dad was trying, really trying. Yeah, he said. I'd like that. Saturday arrived with perfect weather, clear skies and just enough chill in the evening air to make sleeping bags cozy. Alex's grandparents had finally gone home the previous weekend, leaving him and his dad to figure out their new normal together. They were managing, stumbling sometimes, but finding their way. After dinner, Alex carefully moved the midnight lily from the shed to the middle of the backyard. The plant had grown impressively over the past weeks, almost a foot tall now, with glossy dark green leaves spiraling up a sturdy stem. At the very top was what looked like a tightly closed bud, green with hints of blue peeking through. His dad set up their old tent, struggling a bit with the poles until Alex showed him the trick his mom had taught him. Color to color, letter to letter. They laid out sleeping bags and brought out snacks and thermoses of hot chocolate. As darkness fell, they lay on their backs outside the tent, looking up at the stars. The moon was rising, not quite full yet but getting there, its light casting soft shadows across the yard. Your mom loved nights like this, his dad said softly. Remember how she used to name constellations? Alex smiled. Yeah, but half the time she made them up, like the great vacuum cleaner and the flying pizza. His dad laughed, a real laugh that reminded Alex of before. She said the ancient Greeks had their chance to name stars, and now it was her turn. They fell into a comfortable silence, watching the moon climb higher. Alex's eyes kept drifting to the plant, looking for any sign of change, but it remained as it was, beautiful but unblossomed. Dad, Alex said after a while, do you believe in miracles? His dad was quiet for so long that Alex thought he might have fallen asleep. Finally, he answered, I believe in unexpected good things. I'm not sure if that's the same as miracles. Mom's letter said this flower is one of the rarest in the world, Alex said, then froze, realizing what he'd revealed. Letter? His dad asked, turning to look at him. Alex took a deep breath. Maybe it was time. She left me letters in a box in the shed, one for each month. I've only read the first one. Instead of seeming hurt at being left out of the secret, his dad's eyes filled with understanding. That sounds exactly like something she would do. Are you mad I didn't tell you? His dad shook his head. No. Some things need to be just yours. He paused. Did it help? Reading her words? Alex nodded, throat tight. It's like she knew exactly what I'd be feeling. She was always good at that, his dad said. Reading people. Around midnight, clouds began to gather, blotting out the stars. The weather forecast hadn't mentioned rain, but the air suddenly felt heavy with it. Maybe we should move the plant back to the shed, his dad suggested, sitting up. If it starts pouring... A low rumble of thunder interrupted him. Alex looked at the midnight lily, its bud still tightly closed, and felt a stab of disappointment. He'd been so sure it would bloom tonight. Let me check the radar, his dad said, pulling out his phone. Looks like a small storm cell. It'll pass quickly, but it might get pretty wet. Alex stood up. I'll take the plant back to the shed. You get our stuff into the tent. But before either of them could move, lightning flashed across the sky, followed, almost immediately, by a crack of thunder that seemed to shake the ground. Fat raindrops began to fall, quickly turning into a downpour. Get inside, his dad shouted over the sudden roar of rain. I'll grab the plant. Alex hesitated. torn between running for cover and protecting the precious midnight lily. Another flash of lightning decided for him, and he dashed toward the tent, diving inside just as the sky opened completely. Through the tent flap, he watched his dad splash across the yard toward the plant. Just as his dad reached it, the brightest lightning bolt yet split the sky, illuminating the entire yard in stark white light. And then, something extraordinary happened. In that brief, brilliant flash, Alex saw the midnight lily's bud begin to unfurl. As his dad picked up the pot, the plant seemed to respond to the storm's energy, its petals slowly opening like a time-lapse video come to life. "Dad," Alex called, but his voice was lost in the thunder. His dad ran back to the tent, cradling the pot carefully despite being soaked to the skin. He ducked inside, water streaming from his hair and clothes, and set the plant down between them. "Look," Alex breathed, pointing. Under the beam of his dad's flashlight, they watched in amazement as the midnight lily continued to bloom. The petals were a deep, luminous blue, unlike any flower either of them had ever seen, with tiny points of light that seemed to glow from within, like stars captured in living tissue. "It's blooming," his dad whispered, awe in his voice. "Alex, it's actually blooming." The flower continued to open until it was fully revealed, a perfect star-shaped blossom that seemed to emit its own gentle light. The rain pounded on the tent above them, but inside, time seemed to stand still as they stared at the miracle unfolding before them. A sweet, unfamiliar fragrance filled the small space, something like vanilla and cinnamon and ocean air all mixed together. It reminded Alex of his mom's perfume, but different, wilder somehow. "She said it would only bloom at night during a full moon," Alex said softly, "but it's blooming during a storm instead." His dad's eyes were fixed on the glowing flower. "The lightning," he said thoughtfully. "It must have triggered it, the electrical charge in the air." As they watched, mesmerized, the glow from the flower seemed to intensify, casting blue-white light around the tent. In that strange, beautiful light, Alex suddenly felt closer to his mom than he had since before she got sick. "Dad," he whispered. "Can you feel that?" His dad nodded, tears shining in his eyes. "Like she's here with us." The rain began to ease, but neither of them moved, too entranced by the blooming miracle between them. The flower's glow pulsed gently, like a heartbeat, and with each pulse Alex felt warmth spreading through his chest. It wasn't just a flower. It was exactly what his mom had intended. A bridge between where she was now and where they were. A living connection that death couldn't break. "This is what she meant," Alex said, his own tears falling freely now. "In her letter, she said grief is just love with nowhere to go, so we have to make new places for that love to live." His dad reached across the glowing plant and pulled Alex into a hug. They held each other as the storm passed and the night grew quiet again. The midnight lilies, light wrapping around them like a blanket. "Thank you for sharing this with me," his dad murmured. "I think Mom wanted us both to see it," Alex replied. "That's why it waited for the storm when we were together." As they pulled apart, Alex noticed something at the base of the bloom. A tiny seed pod had formed, already containing the promise of new life. "Look," he said, pointing. "There are seeds forming already." His dad smiled through his tears. "That's how hope works, isn't it? Even in the middle of the darkest storm, something new is being born." Alex nodded, feeling something shift inside him. Not an end to his grief, but a transformation of it into something he could carry without being crushed beneath its weight. Outside, the clouds parted, revealing the full moon at last. Its light streamed into the tent, joining with the glow of the midnight lily to create a gentle radiance that felt like a blessing. 3 months had passed since the night the midnight lily bloomed. Spring had given way to summer, bringing long, warm days and star-filled nights. The calendar on Alex's wall now had little notes scribbled on it, not just homework deadlines and soccer practice times, but also water lily and read next letter and visit Mom. Today's date was circled in red, 6 months. Half a year since his mom had died. Half a year of learning how to live in a world without her. Alex sat on his bed, holding the 6th envelope from his mom's wooden box. He'd been faithful to her. Request reading only 1 letter each month, savoring her words like the last pieces of chocolate in a box. This letter felt heavier than the others. When he opened it, he discovered why. Tucked inside was a small silver pendant on a chain. The pendant was shaped like a lily, with tiny blue stones set into the petals. Alex held it in his palm, feeling its weight, before unfolding the letter. "My dearest Alex," his mom's familiar handwriting began. "Happy half-birthday. By now it's been 6 months since I've been gone. 6 months is both a long time and no time at all. I remember when you were a baby. Those first 6 months flew by in a blur of midnight feedings and first smiles. These 6 months have probably felt very different for you. I've been thinking about what you might need at this point in your journey. The early days of grief are a kind of survival mode. You just get through each day the best you can. But around the 6-month mark, there's often a shift. The world expects you to be better by now, but grief doesn't work on a schedule. The pendant I've included belonged to my mother, your grandmother Lily. Yes, she was named after the flower. Our family has a thing for plants. She gave it to me after I graduated college just before she passed away. It's over 100 years old and has been worn by the women in our family for generations. Now I'm breaking tradition a bit by giving it to you, but some traditions need updating. Wear it when you need to feel close to me, or keep it in a special place. It's up to you. It's not just a piece of jewelry, it's a piece of your history, your roots. By now, the midnight lily should have bloomed. Did you see it? Did it glow in the darkness like Dr. Chen promised? I wish I could have seen your face when it happened. Here's something I never told you. Dr. Chen believes the midnight lily has special properties. According to the stories he heard, when it blooms, it creates a moment when the barrier between this world and whatever comes next becomes thin. Moment when love can flow both ways, unobstructed. I don't know if that's true. Science teacher me says it's just a beautiful legend. But mom me wants to believe it. So when the lily bloomed, I hope you felt me there with you, because I promise you, wherever I am, I was trying my hardest to reach across that barrier. I had another reason for wanting you to care for this plant. Growing things teaches us about life in all its forms, how some days are for putting down roots and others are for reaching toward the sun, how every living thing needs both light and darkness to thrive, how beauty often comes after storms. I know these past 6 months have been full of storms for you, my brave boy, but I hope there have been moments of unexpected beauty too. Remember that the seeds from the first bloom can be planted. The midnight lily is rare because it's difficult to grow, not because it can't be shared. Maybe you could give one to your dad to care for, or to Miguel, or keep them all and start a garden of your own. It's up to you. I love you more than the sun and moon and stars put together. That will never change. Mom, P.S. It's time for you to visit the cemetery again. I know you've been avoiding it, and that's okay. Grief needs space to breathe. But there's something I want you to see there. Alex read the letter twice more, running his fingers over the words as if he could feel his mom through them. Then he slipped the silver lily pendant over his head, tucking it under his t-shirt where it rested cool against his skin. His dad knocked on the open door. Ready to go? Alex nodded. They had planned this day together, a visit to the cemetery followed by lunch at his mom's favorite restaurant by the lake. Not a sad day, his dad had insisted, but a day to remember. The drive to the cemetery was quiet, both lost in their own thoughts. When they arrived, Alex was surprised to see how different it looked in summer. During the funeral, everything had been gray and brown, but now the grounds were green and dotted with flowers. Butterflies danced between headstones and birds sang in the tall oak trees. As they walked the familiar path to his mom's grave, Alex felt his heart beating faster. He hadn't been back since that rainy day 6 months ago when he'd fallen to his knees and begged her to take him with her. He was a different person now, still missing her. That would never change, but stronger, able to carry her love instead of being crushed by her absence. When they reached her headstone, Alex stopped short in surprise. The area around his mom's grave was transformed. Someone had planted flowers all around it. Not just any flowers, but blue ones in every shade from pale sky to deep ocean. They created a living carpet that seemed to ripple in the gentle breeze. "Dad, did you do this?" His dad shook his head, looking just as amazed. "No. I thought maybe your grandparents—" Alex approached slowly, drawn by something he couldn't quite name. As he got closer, he realized what the flowers were. Dozens of midnight lilies, smaller than the one in his blue pot but unmistakable with their star-shaped blooms. Unlike his plant, which only flowered at night, these were fully open in the daylight, their petals a brilliant blue against the green grass. "But that's impossible," he whispered. "They're so rare, and they don't bloom during the day." His dad knelt down to examine one of the flowers. "These are definitely the same species, but maybe a different variety. Look how they've spread all around her stone." Alex remembered the line from his mom's letter. "The midnight lily is rare because it's difficult to grow, not because it can't be shared." Had she planted these before she died? Or had someone else, Dr. Chen perhaps, done this for her? As he stood there wondering, a butterfly with electric blue wings landed on one of the lilies right in front of him. It opened and closed its wings, slowly, as if inviting him to look closer. Alex knelt down, and as he did, he noticed something carved into the side of his mom's headstone that he hadn't seen before. It was small, easy to miss unless you were right next to it. A tiny lily, identical to the one on his pendant. "Dad, look at this." His dad crouched beside him, tracing the carving with his finger. "That wasn't there when the stone was installed. I would have noticed. Mom's letter said there was something she wanted me to see here," Alex said softly. As they both stared at the carving, trying to make sense of it, a cloud passed over the sun, briefly casting the cemetery in shadow. In that moment, something extraordinary happened. The carved lily glowed with the same blue-white light as the midnight lily had during the storm. When the sun returned seconds later, the glow faded. But Alex and his dad had both seen it. "How is that possible?" his dad breathed. Alex touched his pendant through his shirt. "Mom wrote that the midnight lily creates moments when the barrier between worlds gets thin, when love can flow both ways." His dad put his arm around Alex's shoulders, and they sat together among the impossible blue flowers, feeling the sun on their faces and something else, a presence that couldn't be seen but could definitely be felt. "She found a way," Alex said, understanding finally washing over him. "Not to take me with her, but to stay with me." The miracle wasn't that his mom had come back from the dead, or that she'd left him magical flowers. The miracle was much simpler, and much more profound. Love doesn't end when a heart stops beating. It finds new places to live, in letters and plants, in memories and stories, in the lessons she'd taught him and the pieces of her that lived on in him. Alex picked one of the small blue flowers and tucked it into his pocket. Later, he would press it between the pages of his mom's journal, a reminder of this day and this realization. "I think I'm ready for lunch now," he said to his dad. "Can we get chocolate milkshakes? Mom would want us to have chocolate milkshakes." His dad smiled, wiping away a tear. "Absolutely. Extra whipped cream, too." As they walked back to the car, Alex felt lighter than he had in months. The weight of grief was still there. It would always be there in some form, but now it was balanced by something else. The certainty that his mom had never really left him. She had given him exactly what he needed. Not a way to follow her into death, but a way to carry her with him through life. In the flowers that bloomed against all odds, in the letters that would guide him through the years ahead, in the pendant that rested against his heart, and most of all, in his memories and in the love that still flowed between them, unbroken by the barrier of death. As they drove away from the cemetery, Alex looked back at the sea of blue flowers surrounding his mom's headstone. In the rearview mirror, they seemed to shimmer, as if waving goodbye, or perhaps hello, in a new and different way.